Keep your radio dial right here. You're locked into the hottest news station on the planet. Hot 702.5 in FM sound. Blazing today's hip-hop, R&B, and pop music. Keeping your radio on fire. Bringing you the hottest, realest, riskiest talk shows live 24/7 on hot7025fm.com. Keep your radio dial right here.
Yo, it's Tavon Greatness Patterson. Want to listen to Hot 7025 on the go? Download the Hot 702.5 app on the Apple Store or Google Play Store if you got an Android like me.
Let's get it.
Tune in now on HOT7025FM.com. Tune in now on HOT7025FM.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back to another beautiful Wednesday. It's your host again, Juss Quanni. You know how it is. You know how I do. I know you're wondering why I'm in a Spider-Man costume. Yes, I had to save the day yet again. But it was also Spirit Week at my kid's school. So after picking them up today, I had to come, handle some business. But I wore my costume for them because they wore theirs at school. I showed up to surprise them. They loved it. They enjoyed it. It was a fun thing. You got everybody calling me Miles as I'm walking by, and all you hear is my son. Yeah, that's my dad. That's my dad. So, he was pretty excited. He was pretty happy about that. My son is very, very excited about the whole Spider-Man thing. He just excited anytime we match, actually. We did the whole suit yesterday with the yellow. Tomorrow he's got picture day, so he's doing gray and pink, so I'll wear a gray and pink suit to drop him off. Things I didn't get to do with my dad. Pretty happy about that. Pretty excited. Just happy that he's not turning me away yet. I know that day may come. That day's not here yet, but when it does, I'll accept it. Just like a good responsible person would do. I mean, probably won't. It'll take some time, but I'll get there. Anyway, let's talk about the week. You know how I like to do so well. Go ahead and do the week in review. Talk about what was going on, what's been happening. Shockingly, I got some pretty, how do I say this? It's like an eye-opener happened this last week in therapy. And man, it's just crazy. It's weird. We're going to get into that specifically because I want to talk about that today, but we'll get there. But definitely just know that was a pretty good thing. This Krishan and Blueface thing going on all over social media all the time now. I'm over it. I am over it. They got this going on. They got that going on. It's a toxic environment. It's a toxic subject. Whatever they choose to do, they choose to do. However, that child is innocent, so that child shouldn't be blasted all over the internet the way it was. So they just got to do better. But I don't really care to bring too much light onto it. One thing I did want to talk about, though, was, did y'all know that Uno has a new game out? They have a new game called Uno Show No Mercy. And this, if y'all thought we was fighting before at parties, if y'all thought that we was going to have issues at the parties, the backyard cookouts, the family events, whatever the case may be, man, wait till you get a hold of this game. This one, I think it's like a draw up to draw 10 or 12 or something like that. Plus you can, the draw 10 or draw 4, whatever, it's supposed to be a draw 4 wild card, but it's a draw 10 wild card. And it also has a reverse on there. So not only are you doing it to the person that just went, like you are making them regret even give you a chance to go. But you will definitely make them be the one to draw the 12, not the person after you, the person before you. It's a lot of cards in that deck. Let's just say some people might start bringing out knives at the family functions when they play in this game. I am definitely going to go buy it because I for sure want that game because I know I'm going to be the one to piss everybody off playing it. Just like for my best friend's birthday, we all ordered for game night, and the game I got in, I won. I got the Uno, I won. I told them I was going to come in and win. Didn't nobody want to believe me. By the way, shout out to my best friend. Her birthday was on the 20th of last week. She was out of town having fun, enjoying it. I was actually here doing a show with y'all at work, but I still have fun when game night came around a couple days later, so that was pretty cool. Dang, sorry. I got a little off track there. But, hey, nevertheless, y'all look out for that game. Again, it's called Uno Show No Mercy, and I'm pretty sure y'all are going to love it. It's going to create some fights, but y'all are going to love it. Y'all are going to love it for sure. Another thing is football. It has been a crazy year already for football, man. We just sat there and watched the freaking Dolphins blow out the Broncos 70-20, 50 points. First team since 1966 to score that high of points, to score at 700 yards on offense at that. Oh my God, it's been a crazy week in football for sure. Yes, my team took a loss today, but you can't be a boss until you take a loss. So, we took our first loss of the season. We're 2-1 now, and we'll get back up on the horse and we'll beat up Jacksonville Jaguars this upcoming week to reclaim that title. It is what it is, but things happen. Dallas, I was actually getting ready to stop talking all of my shit to y'all. I was finna get ready and acknowledge that y'all might be decent this year. Y'all might actually got something going on. And then y'all let the Cardinals come in and just put y'all, they served y'all up a piece of humble pie. That's what happened. The Cowboys got served a piece of humble pie um, by the Cardinals this past week. And, hey, it is what it is. Other than that, the only other people that I was not expecting to lose were the Buccaneers, which they did. And who was the other team that blew the freaking ticket for? I had a team blow my ticket. You know what? I don't even want to think about it because I'm just going to get mad all over again. It's going to piss me off all over again. So I'm just going to let it go. I'm just going to let it go. But just know this upcoming week, I'm not betting this week because I got pissed off. Man, $100 bet to make $1,300 and one team. Let me stop talking about it because I'm getting irritated all over again. Fuck it. It happened. It is what it is. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I'm going to let it go. Next. Oh, you know what? For the last thing I want to talk about for the week that's been going on again, it's been a great week. It's been a very productive week. Nothing bad happening, nothing too out of place. I did have an epiphany, so to say, but other than that, also, we are getting ready for son's 7th birthday party. So my son will be 7 on the 25th of October, and his birthday party is going to be around that time. I will keep everybody updated as it gets closer. Oh, sorry. I'm just making sure I reach out and I speak with his mom and we get it all planned out so we don't have any issues or roadblocks. I'm not trying to take over and do it alone. I want to actually have some help this time, and I want to let someone help me this time. So I'm working on that and getting that done. Once I figure out a day that works best for her and myself, where we can have that birthday party, I will let everybody know. We'll start sending out invitations, and trust me, you'll get that information within the next 4 or 5 days. So by the time I come to the show next week, I'll be able to let y'all know more information on my son's 7th birthday party. What I can tell y'all is it's going to be a Justice League themed birthday party. He has made up his mind. We watched the animations, the cartoons. He's okay with the live action a little bit, but he's definitely made up his mind that he wants to do Justice League this year. He's already told me, he's already picked my character. I didn't even get to choose who I wanted to be. He just straight up told me, you know what, Dad, I need you to be Superman and I'm going to be Batman. And I love his reasoning behind it. So my son said he wants me to be Superman and he wants to be Batman because he said they're best friends and he considers me his best friend. So I love that my son has that idea in his head to consider his dad as his best friend. My kids are just amazing, man. They have the dopest stuff. Like Kalila went to school and she tried to share. I think I probably told y'all this before, but she tried to. Her friend didn't have $1 to have any money at school, and Kalila had $1, but she only had $1. So in order for Kalila to make sure her friend got something, Kalila ripped up the dollar in half, right down the middle, perfect rip if you must ask me, and gave the other half to her friend that they can use them separately. So it was a thought that counts. My kids they're pretty dope and amazing. I got to give them credit for what they do. Um, but yes, don't forget Sun's birthday party is going to be a Justice League themed birthday party. The where, I'm going to get back to you. The when, I'm going to get back to you. And the time, I'm going to get back to everyone. Please feel free to reach out to me if you haven't heard anything by next week, and I'll definitely give you all the details. But they are being ironed out as we speak, so we'll get that taken care of and get that done. In the meantime, the show must go on. You know what I mean? The whole show is basically, I have one huge topic I kind of want to talk about today. I may stray off like I do so well every here and now when I'm trying to give examples of things, but I'll always bring it back and reel it back in. But basically, reality. It's really hard for us to face reality sometimes. Um, like like when you're a kid or a teen and you got to find out that the Tooth Fairy, and Santa Claus, that they're just your parents. You know what I mean? Or when you have to find out that who is it? When you got to find out that, or Hey, put it like this. Some of us are adults right now. We have to face the reality that Walmart is no longer 24/7. It's not something we want to face. It's not the best idea, but we have to acknowledge it. We can't just get up at 2, 3 in the morning because we need something to go to Walmart anymore. It doesn't work like that. I really wish they would bring it back, but it doesn't. But that's reality. So what I mean by that is sometimes the things that we want aren't really in the reality, and we kind of make up our own realities or fantasies, for so to say. And with doing so, we kind of lose track of what to determine between real life and the fantasy world we've created. We don't see that it creates a lot of problems doing that. You create a lot of issues with family members, a lot of issues with friends, whatever the case may be, because sometimes we don't want to accept the reality that's in front of us. We'd rather deal with the fantasy because the fantasy world is a lot better than reality. Sometimes reality is here weighing us down, and fantasy's up here bringing us up. But the thing about it is, if we can let go of that fantasy and come meet in the middle where the reality is, we wouldn't have to worry about that. And I get it, reality sucks sometimes. Reality is horrible sometimes, you know. Um, so why I bring that up is because little things that we do that we try to make a fantasy because we feel like, oh, it's not going to affect it all. It's minor. It tends to grow and become something bigger than what it was, than what it should be. Um, to speak on that and why I say it like that, I've got an article that I want to read. Now, the article is basically like the role of genetics in mental health. Y'all know this is what I do. This is what I'm here for. Mental health, especially for men. You know, that's what we need for it. There is increasing evidence that genetics can play a role in the development of mental health conditions. Researchers are working to understand the specific genes and developmental variations that may be involved in mental health conditions and how these can be used to develop better treatments. Um, it's nothing new. We know mental health is a thing. We know it's a problem. The article, so to say, that I really want to read is the one here that says, oh, let me go to it for you. Okay. And there's another one is here, the impact of trauma and adversity on mental health, which is really what I like to dive into because researchers are studying how trauma and adversity, including exposure to violence, abuse, or other traumatic events, can affect mental health. This research is helping to inform the development of better treatments for people who have experienced trauma. And the article, so to say, that brings this together for me, it says trauma may lead to anxiety and other mental disorders. Okay, that's where it starts off at. Now I'm going to read through the article really quick here and try to give my piece about that, and then we'll go ahead and dig into how I feel and what I think that relates me to this specific article. Some of you may not relate to it, but you know that's neither here nor there. Um, Trauma may lead to anxiety and other mental disorders. Now, does trauma cause mental illness? If there's something called post-traumatic stress disorder, then it's safe to say that someone exposed to trauma may develop a mental health condition later. Research shows that one's future mental health can be predicted by the trauma they experience today. And I think that's a key point to make, that nobody thinks about the fact that some kind of trauma that they experience today may later on down the road affect their mental health. You know, it may affect the way they think, the way they operate because of something that they went through, um, which I'm sure everybody kind of understands that now. Even kids who suffer childhood trauma, like abuse and bullying, tend to develop anxiety and depression later in life. But how does it work? How does a traumatic event lead to mental disorder? And this is kind of, we shrug things off when they happen to us. It's like, oh, it's no big deal. You know, you may have been in a car accident, or you may have got robbed, you may have been beaten, you know. For some women, unfortunate, that's very unfortunate. They may have been, you know, sexually assaulted or even worse, raped, stuff like that. And sometimes the first sign of in our mind, the first thought is to shrug it off so that it doesn't affect us mentally. But subconsciously, it's still there somewhere. So it is still affecting us. We just don't see it or understand it, which is why I say therapy is a great place to go to. It is great to do, great to work on yourself. I'm telling you, it helps you set a much better roadmap for yourself. Now, this one says how trauma paves the way for mental illness. When an individual experiences a traumatic event, their brain responds. It could be the shocking death of a loved one. Remember, it said that the shocking death of a loved one, okay? An accident, abuse, or some near death experience. Before now, studies have always shown that different people, their brains actually, respond differently to trauma. While one's while one person's symptoms and shakiness may dissipate over time, someone else may continue for years, even when they experience the same event at the same time. Man, I love that it pointed that out. But the thing is, these different reactions are rather random. They do not fall neatly into any regular pattern, so it becomes difficult for researchers to determine what a person's mental health would be like after experiencing a trauma. Well, more light has been thrown on the subject. Recent studies show the exposure to trauma can cause changes in the part of the brain regulating cues like threat, reward, reaction, paving the way for the onset of anxiety. So that trauma that you had can actually be a trigger for your trauma. It can actually be a trigger for your anxiety, a trigger for depression. It can be something that triggers a whole lot more than you think. Now, it's like knowing if someone will be sick tomorrow or not, thus making it easier to address the situation early before it impacts their life to a great extent. So it's saying like, we're not saying it's going to completely stop you from being, depressed or anxious, whatever the case may be. But because of these studies, maybe they can find a way to help you approach it better when it comes to deal with it on a more personal level instead of just trying to shrug it off or just not deal with it at all. So you'll have a different way to look at it. A look into trauma and development of mental illness. The research is part of the NIMH funded Aurora study, and that's a large-scale multi-site study on over 3,000 people. These people were studied for up to a year after being exposed to a traumatic event. A year, huh? I wonder if they have ones that are longer than just a year, because boy. The research started with Jennifer Stevens, PhD of Emory University of Atlanta, investigating the post-trauma activity of 69 Aurora participants who were all exposed to a car crash scene. Stevens and some of her colleagues hypothesized that there must be some biochemical reaction in their brain because, of course, the brain is where all consciousness happens, which we get that. So 2 weeks after the incident, she went ahead and measured their brain activity with MRI and had them complete some tasks. These tasks assessed their brain activity in response to social threat cues, reward cues, etc. Studies were carried out on these participants for their next 6 months, and 4 profiles were drawn based on their brain activities. So based on this car crash scene and all of these people they went ahead and studied, they went and got 4 different profiles for the people that experienced the trauma. Reactive or disinhibited is the first one. Low reward or high threat is the second one. High reward is the third one. And inhibited is the fourth one. So the same group of researchers also analyzed 77 more Aurora participants exposed to different varieties of traumatic events. In this other group, the researchers found 3 out of the 4 profiles reactive or disinhibited, low reward or high threat, or inhibited. Now, these profiles were not specific to their demographic, health, or trauma-related circumstances. So Stevens and her fellow researchers found that the participants with reactive, disinhibited profiles, those who showed high activity related to threat and reward, also showed signs of PTSD and anxiety over the next 6 months more than the other participants. So they're trying to say that it doesn't matter what the experience is, what the trauma is, people experience it in a different way. Even though they've all saw the same accident, some people dealt with it more or longer than the other person, or they felt deeper than the other person, or some of the other people that were participants in this actual study. But the bottom line is this research is a major breakthrough in mental health studies. Before now, we only have curative measures for mental health issues like PTSD and anxiety. That's because no one knows who would suffer mental challenges long after a trauma. It's only long after the person's life has been severely hampered that they draw attention and help can be provided. That's true. Some people don't want to get help right away. Some people are so worried about dealing with the issue that happened, they want to feel it first and feel through it. And sometimes you don't need to do that because sometimes it makes it worse, But now experts can analyze people exposed to traumatic events, and those who show the worrisome reactive disinhibited profile can be offered help long before their lives get into a mess. I like that. However, more research is needed using neurobiological behavior and self-report measures. Stephen and her colleagues look forward to developing a more comprehensive visualization of these factors that influence trauma survivors' mental health, and they're making their study data available to other researchers to help speed up the development. This is a ray of light for our future generations. Perhaps soon we'll have effective ways to curb these mental health issues long before they have a chance to disrupt lives. Now, I don't know what you believe or not, but me on one hand, I don't want my life to be disrupted over something so simple and so small. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to have a conversation about it without worrying about the fact that it puts me in an anxious mood or a depressed mood or a lower mind state. I don't want to be post traumatic. I want to be able to handle it and approach it so that way I can be in a healthier state of mind for myself. Nobody wants to sit there and just be, how do I say it, mentally incapable of moving past certain things, and it's also stopping me from moving on in life. I don't want to do it. I'm sure y'all don't want to do it, but I don't want to do it either. Yeah. Let's see here. Now, along with that one, because you know me, I gotta have something else to go with it. Um, this one says childhood trauma can triple one's risk of mental illness. And we all know that we all have childhood trauma. And I've had a lot of childhood trauma that I've been working through and dealing with. And I've had a lot that I've gotten through and gotten over. I've got a lot that I've been struggling to get through and get with. But regardless, I'm working on it all. I'm trying to make the next step better for myself. I want to show my children, how to properly deal with your mental health so that way they're not confused and worried about it like I was growing up. I didn't have a freaking clue. But I do now. I do now. Childhood trauma and mental illness, what's the link? People suffer from mental disorders for many reasons, and some are even unknown. Certain factors can also predispose one to mental illness, and one of these factors is childhood trauma, right? New research shows that people who experience trauma in childhood are 3 times more likely to develop a mental health disorder later in life. The study looked at over 93,000 cases and revealed a direct link between childhood trauma and mental illness during adulthood. Over 93,000 cases, huh? This should be interesting. This is a serious problem because many children battle serious trauma ranging from physical and emotional abuse to bullying and the loss of a parent. Common childhood trauma and associated mental disorders. The most common traumas children experience are physical abuse, emotional abuse, such as neglect, sexual abuse, and bullying. But there are also many others. A child who loses both parents or has a near-death experience might be broken well into adulthood. Such awful experiences cause severe damage to the child's brain that they grow up with, leading to certain mental disorders. How they think and react to certain triggers are altered long term. Dang, I didn't know that part. Children who experience emotional abuse usually develop anxiety later in life. There is also a link between childhood trauma and psychosis, obsessive compulsive disorder, which y'all know a lot of people have OCD or OCD about something, and bipolar disorder. That one was new for me. I didn't know that. For people who experience childhood trauma, the risk of borderline personality disorder increases up to 15 times. So just because a child may have been through something very drastic, very traumatic, they now have the chance of becoming, as you see here, the risk of having borderline personality disorder. This is why I'm trying to pave way for my kids not to have to go through any traumatic experience that are caused by me. There may be some that are inevitable with life, right? I'm not taking it away, but I don't want to be a reason my child has a traumatic experience. Children who experience emotional abuse usually develop anxiety later in life. I feel like they just spoke to me there. There is also a link between childhood trauma and psychosis. Oh, I just read that part. I'm sorry. Yada, yada, yada. Additionally, for people who have suffered childhood trauma, the symptoms of their mental illness are usually worse. Without a doubt, childhood trauma has so many consequences that it deserves more attention than it currently gets. And that's kind of why I wanted to bring that up today, because a lot of us are dealing with issues mentally that are based off of our childhood trauma. Yet we can't see it because we're so used to, shrugging things off. We're so used to seeing things for what it or for not what it is. And again, we like fantasy versus reality. You know what I mean? So that's something we'll have to kind of dig into and look for. What in my childhood is causing me to act like this? What is making me, out of all things, operate in this way? What is going on? If I know it's not right, or if I know it's different, or it's unique, or of its own kind, what happened for me to be in this situation? That's what we should work on. Because without a doubt, childhood trauma has so many consequences that it deserves more attention than it currently gets. Because checking the history of a mental health patient is crucial. You have to understand that most of these people that you all see in the mental health institutes or whatever the case may be, they have trauma that they has been not dealt with. It could be from childhood, from adulthood, but that most of it comes from childhood trauma. Because again, I'm not blaming our parents because they wouldn't know what to do either. But man, I wish they put me in a better direction to deal with my mental health. That's all I'm saying. I wish they did. We have seen cases where a patient suffering from depression, anxiety, or bipolar disorder experiences little or no changes even after using virtually all treatment methods. So basically, they're saying whatever they've tried, it still has not fixed some people. It still has not helped them out and put them in a better situation. Now, most times, unfortunately, treatments focus on the physical and present situation rather than looking at the past. We ask what isn't working without trying to identify what has happened in their life. I like that. In cases where a mental disorder stems from childhood trauma, traditional treatment options may have very little effect. But the greatest challenge is that some of these childhood traumas are so gruesome that talking about it can open deep mental wounds and cause great pain to the patient that they're unwilling to ever open up. Talk about catastrophic deaths and child abuse. Man, it took me years, and when I say it took me years, like man, I'm 31, and I can happily say that in the last 4 to 5 years is when I finally was able to open up and talk about how I felt growing up, what hurt me, what made me feel this way, what made me act this way. I was able to fully and openly talk about my childhood without it breaking me down every time I thought about it. You know what I mean? I used to think about it and I used to just be I used to just be mad that I had to go through it. You know what I mean? I'll be honest. I really did. Um, anyway, preventing it from the roots. Prevention is better than a cure. Perhaps the greatest thing society can do with this discovery is to take actions and reduce the rate of childhood trauma. For example, programs can be set up to educate parents on ways to prevent bullying, a mental health risk factor that can affect both the perpetrator and the victim. Child neglect and physical and emotional abuse should also be discouraged. Now, if fewer kids are exposed to childhood trauma, we could see fewer adults developing mental disorders in the future. Wow, you hear that? If fewer kids were exposed to childhood trauma, we could see fewer adults developing mental disorders in the future. It's crazy to see how childhood trauma can be such a big reason as to why some of this mental illness is going on with some people. Like, it's amazing to see that we don't want to accept we don't want to accept the fact that our childhood could be causing us to be not okay in the brain. That could be causing us to feel not so hot, you know? And one thing we have to realize is it's okay. Like, it is okay to feel that way. It is okay to understand that there's going to be more than one thing that's going wrong in life. But if we keep ignoring it and not dealing with it and attacking it head on, it's going to lead up to something later on in life. And much people as I know that I'm hanging around and friends with, we all have children. This is something we have to work on, something we have to fix, and we have to stop. We have to find a way to alleviate any childhood trauma for our children. Even if we feel like we're doing the right thing, we still need to make sure at the end of the day, are your children okay? Because I can't even tell you how many times I've had to sit down with my kids to make sure that they are okay. Whether they got a whip or something. Are you okay? Well, let me explain to you what happened and what went on. Let me tell you what was going on. And I try not to be too harsh if I have to discipline my kids. And even with discipline, it doesn't always have to be a whooping. I learned to start taking stuff away. Stop letting them watch TV. Take the TV away, right? You know what I mean? Take the toys away. Take the video games away. I even take my son costumes away. Like discipline is discipline, and there's more than one form. But with that being said, also understand that when you're disciplining these children, it's not you. It's not you in your life. So what your parents or your elders or what your family did to you, you don't do that to the kids because you got whipped for one time for touching the outlet. Okay, well, you don't beat your kids the way you got beat about it. You may pop them and explain to them why they shouldn't do it and explain why it's a bad thing for them to touch it. Now, granted, I get it. If they're not listening and doing it more than one time, you ain't got no choice but to whoop them. But at the end of the day, like these kids, this is something I need to say. These kids, whether y'all want to admit it or not, these kids deserve apologies and explanations. They deserve it all. Because if you could sit down and explain and apologize to these kids, and when stuff goes on, you have a much better relationship with them. Every single time, listen. I let my children. Do you know why you in trouble? Do you know that you're not supposed to do this? Oh, you okay? Cool. And this is why you're in trouble. This is why it happened, and don't do it again. This is what you shouldn't be doing again. It's not that hard to let them understand and know why they're in trouble. Because if all you're doing is whooping these kids without giving them the information that they need on why they're getting a whooping, what the fuck are you doing? You are just traumatizing those kids all over again. Now, every time you raise your hands to give them a hug, they're gonna flinch because they think you're finna hit them. Every time you raise your voice, they think they're in trouble because you're yelling. You don't want to do none of that. It's horrible to these kids. Don't create traumatic experiences for them because you're afraid to make changes. That's all I'm saying. We can make changes all we want, but you have to be the one to make your own change. Only one. The last one I kind of want to read off of is the one here that talks about. This one just talks about pretty much sibling bullying and how it can lead to poor mental health in teenage years. I bring this up because this one here is very personal to me, okay? And it may have been a way for my siblings to show me love, but it did affect me later on in life because I always felt out of place with even them, except for, my brother, little baby, may he rest in peace. That was just, it's a different ballgame, different kind of bond me and him had with each other. But sibling bullying can lead to poor mental health in teenage years or in teenagers. While we may think that bullying starts and ends in childhood, it's not always so. The physical pain may go away, but not the psychological effect. New research has found that sibling bullying leads to poor mental health later in teenage and in both the perpetrator and victim. Now, how sibling bullying affects mental health in young people, the new study reveals that adolescents frequently bullied by their siblings are highly likely to experience mental health challenges later. You may also be inclined to explain this by common sense. Children who suffer repeated bullying will tend to have lower self-esteem, depression, and even loneliness. Even loneliness. But there's more than one research now backing up this common sense, which is great to hear. Surprisingly, it goes way more than that. Intuition would tell you that the perpetrators, those who bully their siblings, go scot-free. Perhaps they would even develop higher self-esteem and confidence. But you'd be shocked they are also at risk of poor mental health. I'm not shocked, actually. Several previous studies have shown that one is especially vulnerable during their adolescence. In short, adolescence is a time when mental health deterioration usually begins and is more likely to occur. So you hear that? Being a teenager, you're more likely to go through that mental health issues. Wow. Fractured sibling relationships, including sibling bullying, has been linked to poor mental health outcomes. The adolescents before now, however, there was no more information as to the severity or duration of the mental health outcomes. Neither was there any study on whether poor mental health is experienced only by the bullied kid. The new research throws light on all of that. Now, the research in this study, which looked at over 17,000 people, found that when siblings bully each other, both the victim and the bully can end up with mental health problems as teenagers. Furthermore, the more often siblings bullied each other, the worse the mental health problems were. But that's not all. Even if someone was only a bully and not a victim, they still had worse mental health later on. The study covered things like self-esteem, well-being, and psychological distress. Wow. Who would have thought, right? Now, Dr. Umar Tosib, who led by the study, duly noted how shocking and unexpected the results were. Those who bullied their siblings but weren't bullied themselves had poor mental health outcomes years later, he said. The study also used data from another study set up in the early 2000s to investigate lives in the new century. The young participants answered questions in sibling bullying between ages 11 and 14 and further questions about their mental health when they turned 17. Their parents were also involved in the questionnaire. Now, the takeaway is the research suggests that reducing bullying in early adolescence will go a long way in mitigating and treating mental health challenges. Later in adulthood, of course, since bullying contributes significantly to these issues, they would be easier to handle if we took bullying out of the equation. Even more importantly, children who bully others thinking it's a way of boosting their self-esteem should desist from it. The consequence is even more alarming than it is for the bullied. So basically, they're coming out and telling you, whether you are the one that's doing the bullying or the one that's being the victim, you are going to have a mental health issue. You're going to have some kind of mental health problem that's going to go on later in life that it can build from. But what they're also telling you is that bullying in itself is going to create issues for you alone. So if you are being the bully, or if you do know one of the kids being the bully, help them work through that and work on that. You don't want these kids around here not knowing what they're creating for themselves. We are their parents for a reason. We are here to lead by example. We are here to be the ones that show them right from wrong, and on a consistent basis show them how to go through life, even though reality sometimes sucks. You know what I mean? Um, Personally, to me, why I picked that one, of course, is because not only does it talk about childhood trauma, but it talks about a few things that come with childhood trauma that kind of make you feel, or not make you feel, but kind of better show you a better understanding of you, of what is causing the mental illness or mental health issues you have. Now, again, I've talked about the fact of with childhood trauma and acceptance and fantasy versus reality so far. The reason why I personally had to talk about this is because this past week in therapy was it was a week of it was a hard week in therapy because I had to come to the realization of something I have never accepted. And I'm not saying I accept it now, but I'm trying. I'm doing my best to, but I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm trying. Okay. Um, my therapist has pretty much stabbed me right in the heart and told me that I have not accepted my brother's death. Okay. It's been 11 years and I just have not accepted my brother's death. The reason for that is simply because, well, there's a few different reasons. Okay. But as you all know, I lost my brother on August 12th, 2012. So about 11 years ago, um, he got hit off of a moped and he lost his life that day. It makes it worse because the person that hit him is a family member. So it's kind of like, damn, it's an accident, but damn, like, what do you do? What's your the law said? Um, but I mean, I'm sure you all know by now, my brother is a very sensitive subject for me. I loved him to death. My brother was like the only family member I had that had no issues showing me he cared about me. Um, so letting him go or accepting his death, it is something I never even thought about doing. Even the night of when we were in the hospital, they came and got everybody and said, "We need you all to come in and say your goodbyes." And I couldn't do it. I said, "No, I'm not going to say goodbye to my brother because I can't do it. I can't. I don't believe it." Um, it's been 11 years. And part of me, yeah, I still feel like one day he'll just walk in my house or knock in my door and, everything will be okay again. I still believe that. And, the sad truth is I have to come to a point where I accept the fact that my brother is no longer here. It does a lot of damage to my physical, my emotional, my mental by not having him here, you know. But again, he was the only family member that I had to truly show me he loved me, to truly show me he cared about me. He was the one person that I didn't have to worry about, if he was going to be there. Um, Everybody else in my family pretty much, for lack of a better word, they turned their backs on me, or they would always stab me in the back any chance I get. But I never had to worry about that with my brother because he always had my back, he always had my back. And it's not that, it's not that I feel like I don't have anybody else. I just really feel like nobody, nobody has me. Okay. Um, all throughout life, whether it was from childhood, from feeling like the outcast and black sheep in the family, to today's time where I don't even speak to that family. And I do my own thing and I still am an outcast because I have my own family. So my mindset about it is like, I have my own family to worry about right now. And my family is important to me. My children are very important to me. I have them to worry about, I have them to think about, and I have them to move on and live on and work for to make sure that they have a decent upbringing at least. So I try not to think anymore about what that family put me through or what they've done or what was going on. I try not to think about my childhood and how it affected me and how it may be. But sometimes, in order for you to heal and for you to grow and to move on, you have to attack those small moments from the past. You have to attack it head on and deal with it in order for you to be in a better position or a better environment, so to say. Um, I have just gotten to a point where I'm trying and I'm working on it, but the more I think about my childhood, the more I think about what I went through, the more I think about my brother, the more I realize that he's not here. The more I just feel bad, the more I feel lonely because all of my childhood, he was there, whether it was to protect me, play with me, lead me, or just be a big brother. He was there. And it's not easy attacking your mental when one of the biggest things that affect it is the loss of a loved one. Um, when I lost my brother, everything changed. I wasn't so bubbly anymore. I wasn't so happy and excited anymore. I hated life. I um, I just wanted it all to be over. Without him here, I felt like I truly was alone. I felt like I truly lost the only person in this world that loved me back the way I loved him. My brother was not a sentimental person. He didn't really show affection, but you can tell. You know what I mean? It's like when you just know somebody loves you, you just know they care. You don't have to question it. You don't have to worry about it. That's how my brother was. He was always him, but I loved him for him. He loved me for me. Whether he picked on me to a point where he was just trying to, I always thought he picked on me, but my brother just wanted me to be stronger. He wanted me to hold my own. He wanted me to be able to survive in this godforsaken world. He just wanted me to be able to stand up and be a man. And when I lost him, it was the most hurtful thing ever because I was on my way. I was working, getting ready to move out of my mama's house. I was becoming everything I told myself I'd be. And then I lost my brother, and it was just the biggest setback ever. My mental went berserk. I started stepping back from everybody. I started being more aggressive and angry all the time. I started being uncomfortable with just certain environments, certain situations. I started letting go of the word family because the longer, the more my brother was not here, the more my family fell apart. And when I realized that people just wanted to argue and fight all the time, it was crazy. It was crazy to see. So I told myself, you know, obviously they don't want to make it right. They don't want to do what needs to be done. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my own thing and I'm going to step away. I've tried to bring my family back up and together plenty of times, but I'm over it. Like I've had enough and I'm fed up. So, I started worrying about, again, my family's important, but the one I created is my number one priority. And I realized I would not let them be in that kind of situation to be in a family where they will also be put through any kind of traumatic experiences. It's just not going to happen, at least not on my end. You know what I mean? Um, so after, going back and forth with the therapist, I wouldn't say going back and forth, but after the conversation we were having, I came to the realization to where I was like, you're right. I have not accepted my brother's death. And I haven't accepted it because I'm not ready to accept the fact that nobody's going to have me like he did. I'm not ready to accept the fact that I'm going to feel even lonelier now that I've accepted the fact that he's no longer here. I finally understand that he's not coming back. Um, that's not easy for me to do, but I'm working on it. I'm really trying. I'm really doing my best because it's holding me back. It's causing problems and issues I cannot deal with. I have been so emotional these last few months, and I cannot pinpoint where it comes from. And I can almost guarantee a huge part of it comes from losing my brother. It's to the point now where I can barely talk about him without tearing up. I can barely speak his name without feeling like, oh man, you finna get emotional because I miss my brother. I have nothing over the fact of admitting that I miss my brother dearly. And yes, I know my mind psychologically he's gone. I get it. But in my heart, I can't really seem to accept that he is no longer here. But I'm working on it. Um, I'm just trying not to let that affect anything going on with me and my children, all in all. Acceptance is very hard, especially when you don't want to receive it. Um, Me personally, I can accept a lot. I really can. Whether it's BS from relationships or friendships, whether it's dramas, toxicity, I can accept a lot. But this right here, losing my brother and accepting that he is gone forever, ever and ever, it is a challenge for me. If I get through it, when I get through it, I'm sure there will be a dark shadow before well, like they say, a storm before the sun comes out. But like they say, in every storm, there is a silver lining. So I guess I should look for that. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll be better off mentally, but I'll still feel hopeless a little bit. Um, yeah, man, I'm not gonna lie though. Life is still life. Like one thing I've always wanted to do is be a father, and as you see, I mean, with the way I treat the kids, I try to do that so well. You can ask anybody in my life when they say what I wanted to do when I wanted to grow up. I've always wanted to just be a father, have the kids, the family, the white picket fence with the house. That's it. Simple as that. I'm not hard to please at all. That's all I wanted. Um, but some things change, some things happen, and one thing I realize is I have had a lot of childhood trauma that I didn't get through that I should have gotten through. I've had a lot of stuff. When you start clearing out that closet, taking stuff off the hangers because you're ready to clean it out, you start seeing shit you completely forgot about. You start seeing shit that you thought you just said you swept under the rug and you moved to a different house. So lately, because I've been making so much progress, which I still have been making progress. So I'm glad about that. I'm still making progress with my mental. But I had to understand because I started digging deeper and started realizing other shit. It kind of makes you want to give up because you're like, oh, I got more work to do. But you can't give up because you got to think about how far you've come. Because now you're better equipped to deal with these issues and deal with these problems and deal with these situations rather than not knowing where to go or where to turn. So even though I see all of this shit that still has to go, that I still have to work on, I've already realized how far I've came and what I've done to give me that extra motivation to keep going down that straight path. Instead of me saying, all right, fuck it, I'm gonna move out the pathway and I'm gonna call it a day and I'm gonna go a whole complete different route. You know? So now since I don't have to worry about that, since I don't have to tolerate or deal with that, and I've been able to put myself on a better path to say some things you may not like, some things you may not accept, you may not want, but it's here, so you have to deal with it one way or another, right? I have to put myself in line and put myself in check to say, I know you want to run away, but now is not the time. We're in a final stretch, and all you got to do is just keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. So I do a great job of motivating myself, and at the times I feel like I can't always think about my kids because I'm doing it for them as well as myself. Doing it for me because I need to heal. I'm doing it for them because they deserve a father that's healed. That's exactly how that works. So I won't. I'm going to do my best to not put my children in an environment to where they have to sit up there and worry about it being a toxic environment, a stressful environment. I don't want them to go through any trauma that I can't help them get through. Like, because of course, loved ones will fall down as we go. Like it could be grandparents, or aunties and uncles, which I will do my best to help them through that when that time comes. But I don't want it to be a traumatic event that I put them through because I couldn't control my emotions. Simple as that. So, that's pretty much it for today. Yes, my therapist stabbed me right in the heart with that because I feel like after 11 years, I would have been able to actually accept my brother's death. And my therapist said, no, you've been coping with it, but you haven't accepted it. And yeah, that's why I love my therapist because, not afraid to be honest with me. And I love it. Anyway, that's something I'm working on is acceptance. It's hard for me to accept a lot of stuff, not just my brother's death, but there's some other things it's hard for me to accept as well. And I'm working on acceptance. As y'all see every day, I try to improve and I try to go above and beyond. So, never here nor there. Anyway, looks like it's time for me to wrap up the show. We've had our fun for this last hour. Don't forget if you want to reach out, follow me on Facebook at Marquan Thomas or Quan, Facebook jail Thomas, because I'm always in Facebook jail. Or you can reach out to me on TikTok at Juss Quanni. Now, that's also the username for my Instagram and Twitter, which is Juss Quanni. But you can also find me on Instagram and Twitter as Choose Your Character or Quanni702. I think I said that all. YouTube is also Juss Quanni. Don't forget to reach out, have fun, and enjoy. Any comments, questions, or concerns, or emotional outbursts, DM me or let me know. Hit me up. If you don't have my number because you don't know me well enough to have it, so that means jump in my inbox and then we can talk from there. Get things going and get a relationship started. I like creating all kind of bonds, whether they're new or old. If I got to restructure one, I love doing that too. But I will catch y'all next week on the hottest radio station on the planet, which is Hot 702.5 FM. I'll see y'all next Wednesday at 4 p.m. Just remember peace, love, and hair grease. I'll catch y'all next week.